You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. A warm welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. My name is Eben Jansen. The show is broadcast live every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. Highlights are then repeated at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following morning. We also stream live on YouTube between 9 and 10 a.m. every day, with the entire show then available on the YouTube channel. That's our very own YouTube channel. That means you can watch it anywhere in the world at any time. Today, we look at the arms deal and the Seriti Commission of Inquiry. We then take a look at the relationship between South Africa and Australia politically and on the sporting field, and then look forward to the trial of the century. Top forensic scientist believes Oscar Pistorius has a lot of explaining to do when he takes a stand at the Pretoria High Court next week. But first, here are the news headlines. Three arms deal critics say they will pursue all legal avenues to ensure that those who took bribes in the multi-billion rand arms contracts are brought to book. Former ANC MP Andrew Feinstein expressed dismay at challenges in accessing classified and top-secret documents. Feinstein and co-author Henny van Veeren called on the Commission yesterday afternoon to repay taxpayers with the full, unfettered truth of the arms deal. President Jacob Zuma says amendments to 2 laws are going to lead to changes in the print media in South Africa. Speaking at the Independent News and Media SA celebration in Cape Town, the President said the print media sector was lagging behind broadcasting with respect to transformation. He said amendments to the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act and the Employment Equity Act should pave the way for transformation. And Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir will continue his battle for bail in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court today. His third bid for bail was postponed on Monday. Krejcir was arrested in November on kidnapping and attempted murder charges. 5 others have since been arrested. Arms deal whistleblower, author and former African National Congress Member of Parliament Andrew Feinstein and his 2 colleagues Paul Holden and Henny van Veeren say they will pursue all legal avenues to ensure what those who took bribes in the multi-billion rand arms contracts are made to account. Andrew Feinstein is now based in the United Kingdom. He jetted into South Africa 2 days ago, challenged the Seriti Commission of Inquiry into the arms deal to dig deeper, divulge secrets and confidential documents to make sure that those implicated in the arms deal are held accountable. We have Andrew Feinstein in our studio this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Not at all.
We live in interesting times. You labelled the arms deal as the most corrupt act in the world, and it would have cost the South African taxpayers billions and billions of rands. Just elaborate for us your views.
Just very quickly, the arms trade globally is by far the most corrupt and the most secretive of all global trades.
Yeah.
Our arms deal was a reflection of that global situation. By the time the contracts come to an end in 2018, we would have spent around 70 billion rand for military equipment that many argue we don't really need and we don't really use. This is a lot of money for stuff that might not be necessary.
The talk now is about accountability and holding people accountable, and I think the public has gotten to the point where they want to know who are those people that have to account and how are they going to be held accountable.
The issue is that the 70 billion is paid for by the South African taxpayer. And even from the time that I was in Parliament, 2001, when I left, there were attempts to ensure there wasn't a proper investigation of this arms deal. It's my contention, and it has been for over a dozen years now, that the people who are paying the bill for this deserve to know exactly why we got the equipment we got. Very expensive equipment. To give you an example, jet fighters and trainers. Yeah. We paid 2.5 times more than the equipment that the Air Force said publicly it actually wanted.
Yeah.
On those particular contracts, 115 million of bribes were paid by the two companies involved.
Yeah.
South African citizens, South African taxpayers deserve to know the truth, and those who accepted bribes have to face the consequences.
I think we've gotten to the point where people are getting a little bit, I think, probably fatigued around thinking around this arms deal. How is this going to be blown open at this commission if anything like that would happen? And I think that, to use a pun, people want to know, is there a smoking gun that would come out?
I think, first of all, in terms of the fatigue, why is this deal still important so many years after it took place? First of all, the amounts of money. And it's worth bearing in mind that if it can be shown that there was corruption in any of the contracts, those contracts can be cancelled.
Yeah.
And the South African government can get some of that money back and use it for better purposes.
Yeah.
We could have, for instance, built 2 million houses with that money. We could be creating 100,000 low-skilled jobs every year for 10 years. We could be employing more teachers, etc., etc. So there's the money aspect. But the other dimension is very important. This deal has had a huge impact on our politics and on our governance. And unless, just like the TRC, unless we get to the bottom of the story and expose it, we're never going to be able to move on, especially in relation to things like corruption and good governance. So is there a smoking gun? Myself and my colleagues have made a huge submission to the Commission in which we've collected documents from all over the world. I work internationally on the arms trade, which is why I'm based in London. The Commission is not sure whether to accept those documents because we didn't get them all from official channels.
Yeah.
The nature of this trade is that you get documents through whistleblowers, through leaks, through good investigative journalism. None of those are official channels, but they are crucial channels to get to the truth. So we're asking the Commission to accept these documents and ensure that the full truth gets put before the people of South Africa.
You also mentioned being frustrated at not being able to obtain some documents. What is that process, and tell us about the frustration then?
You know, we've had a few frustrations with the Commission, which has had its problems. The first is that we get informed very late about who is appearing when. Then we get their witness statements very late, and often we don't even get the documents accompanying that statement. That makes it very difficult for people like ourselves to try and cross-examine these people, especially because we don't have a lot of money to throw at lawyers, etc., etc. You know, we've got to do this on the cheap, so it makes it difficult. The most recent case that showed this was with former Minister Alec Erwin.
Yeah.
He appeared just a couple of days after his former department, Trade and Industry, released a report that said the economic benefits, what are called offsets in the trade, that we were supposed to get from the deal have been a catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
We haven't got most of the jobs we were supposed to get. We haven't got most of the trade we were supposed to get. And we wanted to cross-examine him about this. But unfortunately, the judge at the Commission decided that the contracts that were signed between the companies in South Africa were classified, and we couldn't use them in cross-examination. So, you know, we were going to have to ask a guy questions without being able to refer to the detail of exactly what we were questioning, which was an untenable situation.
The big names is what I think everybody is on about during this the next couple of months. Who are the big names that you guys want to talk to, and what kind of questioning, what would the line of questioning, and what kind of information are we looking at from these big names?
We're in the first phase of the Commission, which is only dealing with the rationale for the deal. We would very much like to have been able to cross-examine more during this phase, but I think the phase that will be of most interest to people will be phase 2 after the elections, which will deal with the allegations of corruption. Now, in terms of the books that myself and my colleagues have written on the arms deal here, on global arms business, there's the same names that come up over and over again. The names of the Sheikh brothers would not be unfamiliar to South Africans. There are numerous allegations about the late Minister of Defence, Joe Modise, his political advisor, Fana Hlongwane, who we know received huge amounts of money from the bidding companies on this.
Has he been found yet?
Well, you know, if there's any problem finding him, the Commission should just ask me to do it. I spend most of my life chasing after arms dealers, arms middlemen, what are called intermediaries, And I find it quite easy to find people.
Okay.
So I would be very happy to look for him. But these are some of the names. Obviously, some of our senior politicians. Yeah. Former Minister Sipiwe Nyanda, obviously people know the President himself was at one point implicated. And they'd like to know the truth of that. Yeah. So the names are as big as they get.
Now, the Commission has been sitting for the last year. Do you have any misgivings, or what are the misgivings that you have in the proceedings thus far?
Let's start from the perspective that I believe that the judges heading the Commission, the people working on the Commission, are all honourable people. They have a very difficult mandate. The concerns that we have had is that a number of top people have resigned from the Commission. And amongst those who've resigned, they've suggested that there might be what they call a second agenda in the Commission. Yeah. That the Commission might actually want to make the arms deal sound as good as possible and be as critical as possible of people like myself, who have for many years now criticised the deal and alleged corruption in the deal. And at the moment, because of the issues of documentation, the issues of information, the fact that our evidence, which we were told we were going to give early last year, and we still haven't given. We're now told we must wait till late this year. And that only those who have a good impression of the deal are going to be questioned prior to the election. All of these issues have raised concerns for us. So we have effectively put out a challenge to the Commission. We've said to them, the public is paying for your Commission. You've got a very important mandate to, for the first time, reveal the full truth of this deal to the people who paid for it. Taxpayers of South Africa. You have a responsibility to those people to fulfill your mandate and to ensure that the full truth of this deal comes out once and for all.
Finally, you spoke yesterday about decisive steps that need to be taken. You've got about 45 seconds to tell us what those decisive steps are.
I think the most important things the Commission can do to indicate how serious it is would be to ensure that senior people in the ANC are subpoenaed, to answer serious questions about the ANC's role in the corruption in the deal. Secondly, I would suggest that the President needs to appear. By doing that, by ensuring that documents that have been leaked, etc., are able to be submitted in the Commission, this Commission can fulfill its mandate.
One more question pops up. It's been called for the Commission to be scrapped. Can we afford that, and should it be scrapped?
I don't think so at this point. I think that, yes, there are misgivings, but I don't think that we should at this point say this whole thing is a disaster. Let's wait until we get into the second phase about corruption and see whether this Commission has the courage to fulfill its mandate. I think it would be premature now to scrap it.
I think the entire nation shares that opinion. Thank you for joining us today, Andrew Feinstein.
Thank you.
Of course, the Commission of Inquiry, Seriti Commission of Inquiry, continues in Pretoria. Thank you once again. Now, sporting rivalries aside, the relationship between South Africa and Australia is an extremely healthy one, and there are a lot of good stories to be told. That's a theme this week, isn't it? Australia has provided formal bilateral development assistance to South Africa since 1994. Post-94, Australian aid provided assistance to South Africa to achieve the goals set out in its reconstruction and development program. In our Cape Town studio, well, we are joined by the Australian High Commissioner to South Africa, Mr. Graham Wilson, to talk to us about, well, political, sport and trade relations between these countries. Good morning, Mr. Wilson. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Eben. Good to be with you.
Mr. Wilson, we are so tempted to just talk cricket today, but unfortunately there's a little bit of business to be had. I want to ask you firstly about some of the projects that our countries are involved in at the moment, and specifically the big Aussie Science Show with relation to the SKA project. Just tell us a little bit about this and some of the other projects that we are sharing.
Sure. Look, it is a very exciting time to be High Commissioner here in South Africa, because there's so much happening. I think we can't avoid the cricket. I think everyone's very excited about that, and it's going to be a fantastic series decider here in Cape Town. But we also have a number of events linked to the 20th anniversary of democracy and to 20 years of relations between Australia and South Africa. There are many aspects to that. We will be doing a significant photographic exhibition which will be exhibited here in South Africa and also in Australia during the course of the year to highlight our contribution to the anti-apartheid movement, but also the evolution of relations. And as you mentioned, there will be a number of other public diplomacy events. There'll be one, the science circus, which is very exciting. I haven't seen it myself, but I'm told that it's extremely interactive and good fun, and we'll be using that to highlight the cooperation between Australia and South Africa on the SKA, which is arguably the world's largest and most exciting scientific project. And we also have a short film festival called Tropfest, which will be happening in the next couple of weeks, and that's again a very big event. It'll be here in Cape Town, as will the Science Circus. So watch out on the embassy website, and you'll be able to read all about these coming events.
The SKA project, it's gotten a little bit quiet at the moment. Can you tell us about the collaboration between the two countries and how this project is going?
Yes, look, obviously it's a very long-term project, but we at one point, Australia and South Africa, were rival bidders for this project, but in the end the decision was taken, and I think everyone's pleased that it's a co-siting arrangement. So it is as I mentioned, the largest scientific project in the world, co-sited between two Southern Hemisphere countries, Australia and South Africa. We're in the precursor stage at the moment, and that's going along very well. But over the longer term, I think the prospects of increased scientific and technological collaboration are enormous, as are the potential commercial benefits, and not just in terms of astronomy, but also all the scientific innovation, technological engineering contributions that will need to be made. Yes. So I think it's going to lead to a lot more interest in general, young people in science, in astronomy, because it is potentially a way of just finding out, or answering a lot of questions that have been asked for hundreds of years, how we came about, looking at galaxies millions and millions of miles away. And so the potential is enormous, but I think, again, the commercial benefits for both countries could be significant. And it's not just Australia and South Africa. There are some 10 countries altogether now involved in the project.
I want to ask you about other exciting projects that's on the horizon here in South Africa, the shale gas exploration in the Karoo, or fracking as it's known. Are we going to see some collaboration between our countries on this?
Well, I think the government here has made it clear that it intends to proceed with this hydraulic fracking and fracturing, and which is called fracking. And that is potentially, as the Minister and the President himself have said, a real game changer for South Africa's economy. Yeah. Obviously, it's going to take time. There need to be a lot of consultations with environmental groups and making sure that it is done in a sustainable way, but it's potentially extremely exciting, I think, for the South African economy, and there are Australian companies that will be involved. One, Challenger Energy, is already hoping to secure a license, and it's been in consultations with various stakeholders and wants to develop this resource in a sustainable way.
Finally, Mr. Wilson, before I let you go, are you going to be at Newlands from tomorrow onwards, and what are your expectations?
Well, you wouldn't be able to keep me away. I mean, I'll definitely be there. There'll be a number of events linked to it, and potentially just before the game starts, the national anthems, and I hope to be out joining our players on the ground. It's going to be a fantastic match. I've actually said on television and radio before the series started that I predicted a 2-1 victory for Australia. That's still a possibility, but I think South Africa will no doubt start favourites for this game. They've got a tremendous record at Newlands, and they have been the best team in the world for the last 4 or 5 years, and that's for very good reason. They've got a wonderful balanced attack and great batting and a very mature side. But Australia will be giving 100%. We have a lethal weapon in Mitchell Johnson. Let's hope he bowls well, but it should be a fantastic finale to what has been a really tremendous series.
You're a wonderful diplomat, sir. You've sort of encapsulated the entire thing there without giving anything away. I wanted to ask you quickly about the gamesmanship that's been going on. It's a very South African as well as Australian trait, is to sort of mentally disintegrate the opponent. What do you make of the ball tampering debacle that went on the last couple of days?
Yes, well, I think that there's no doubt that sometimes things are said in the heat of the moment, but there's been, I think, clear evidence, advice that's It's not the case, and I know the South African, a number of South African sportsmen very well, and I'm very impressed with the level of respect that all South African sportsmen at the elite level show for the game, and that's true in Australia as well. So they're two highly professional teams, I guess, always trying to gain an advantage, but I think the real test will be out on the ground over the next 5 days, and that will come down to who wins the crucial moments and gains that momentum, because the first two tests have shown that when that happens, it's very hard for the other side to come back. But we'll see. I think all of those things will be forgotten once the game starts, and it should be just a first-class contest between the two best teams in the world.
It'll be a wonderful occasion, Mr. Wilson. It takes two to tango, as they say, and we're always very, we love competing against the Aussies because ultimately we have so much in common with you. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today. That's the Australian High Commissioner to South Africa, Mr. Graham Wilson, who spoke to us a little bit of politics, a little bit of sport, a little bit of everything. What a wonderful man, actually. That was a very good conversation we've had. Trust you've enjoyed it. But let's see now what you are saying. Yes, you also get to say something on the show. Of course, Imran Banker says, Mokopane explosion in Limpopo, big hole in the road, but thinking about the crater in the hearts of so many families devastated by this. That's from @Ivanka coming in. Brendan Zachary says, I drove past the site of the explosion today on my way back to Josie. Even from the R101, you can see the carnage. Truly horrifying, that explosion that took place. Lusanda Mbani says, my horrible trip to Polokwane today was nothing compared to the grief of the families who lost loved ones in that terrible explosion. Condolences, she says, goes out to them. Keep it coming, of course. We love your contributions. We want you to interact with us. It's @SABC Newsroom, and of course sabc.co.za/news. That's where you can get all the updates all of the time. After a short little break, we'll be back with the juice on the Oscar Pistorius trial. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News.
Gaming enthusiasts, including us here at Network, indulged in over 80 exhibits that included the Xbox One and Nintendo. Visitors also got to try out PlayStation 4 computer entertainment system, which was unveiled at Rage 2013.
I just came here to see the Xbox One and the PS4, see which one I'd buy.
If you have close to 400,000 Rand to spare, then you can buy the new UHD TV set. Samsung has launched cheaper models, but cheaper doesn't necessarily mean cheap. South Africa has just received the country's first surgical robot, but the robot isn't quite taking over from your surgeon just yet.
That's Network, Sundays, 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom here on SABC News. Oscar Pistorius will have a tough time proving his innocence when the trial of the century kicks off in Pretoria next week. That's according to forensic scientist Dr. David Klatzoff. He says there's a lot of explaining to do by the accused if he is to succeed and walk away a free man. Dr. Klatzoff joins us now live from Cape Town. Good morning, Dr. Klatzoff. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning and hello to your listeners.
Dr. Klatzoff, just give us your thoughts on the trial ahead and why do you believe Oscar will have a tough time in proving his innocence?
I think that you are misquoting me to a certain extent. There's always a situation which arises at the beginning of the trial when the state case is unfolding, when it looks at its strongest. You must remember that the state case is as good as it will ever get at the end of the trial. And that depends on how the state witnesses shape up to cross-examination. It also depends on how the defense witnesses shape up in their evidence and in the cross-examination of them. So there are some questions which need to be asked. There are some questions which were raised at the bail application, and those questions will need to be dealt with. And the toughness or otherwise of Oscar's job depends on the quality of the evidence that is led. And at the end of the day, of course, it's the court decision with the totality of evidence before it which is going to be important, not what I think and not what you think and not what the press thinks.
Of course, it all has to be tested in court, and we agree with you on that. But you in an interview with the Belt newspaper, you spoke about his life not being in immediate danger when the fatal shots were fired. What bearing do you believe this would have on the outcome of this case?
No, again, there's a subtle misquote on this. What I said was that in order to shoot another human being, your life or that of somebody else has to be in mortal and imminent danger. And Oscar will have to show that he objectively or subjectively, to an extent that the court believes him, believed that his life was immediately threatened. And there are certain factors which will come into that, namely where he fired the shots from, the degree of closeness with which he approached the imminent danger, and the way in which the shots were fired. The number of shots, those will all come into that equation. But you are not entitled to shoot somebody unless yours or another person's life is in immediate and mortal danger. If you're attacking me with a bread roll at a restaurant, I can't pull out a pistol and shoot you. The degree of force has got to commensurate with the degree of danger which you face. And those are all things that are going to have to be unpacked at the court case. They're going to have to be cross-examined. His state of mind is going to be a central issue in the whole set of evidence. And at the end of the day, it all depends on the way the witnesses shape up and the nature and extent of their evidence.
In your opinion, Mr. Klatzoff, your opinion this is, did he use excessive force by shooting through a door 4 times without knowing he's in there?
Well, the first thing to say is that my opinion is irrelevant in this. I think that you need to be able to be inside his mind to know what was going through his head. I don't know what was going through his head. It's up to him to convince the court that he was in sufficient danger to justify the level of force which he used. And one mustn't forget that firing 4 shots from a 9mm parabellum pistol is significant force. This is not a toy. It is likely, if those shots hit you in the torso, that 4 shots will produce mortal damage to the person that's on the other end of them. So that is what is going to be central to this case. And I think I'd rather refrain at the moment from saying whether the force was excessive or not. That's for the court to decide. But it was certainly a significant amount of force, and he's going to have to show that the level of danger that he was in was commensurate with that amount of force.
You were quoted in the newspaper again, and it might be misquoted or not, that it will be very difficult for him to prove his innocence and that the athletics team in prison will be much stronger after this trial. Do you still stand by those comments? Or
No, again, if you ask me what my view is, if I were to choose which case to have, I would say at the moment the state case is looking very strong. But again, that is predicated on not knowing what is in Oscar Pistorius's hand. I don't know what's in his hand. And as far as I'm concerned, one needs to wait and let the court make up their mind. There are issues which he's going to have to deal with. And those issues have already been raised at the bail application and need to be dealt with. And there are some tough questions. I've got no doubt that this is not going to be a walkover, but there are tough questions that Oscar needs to answer and answer satisfactorily.
Dr. David Klatzer, thank you for joining us and giving us your views on the case next week. Of course, that is forensic scientist Dr. David Klatzer will join us live from Cape Town, giving us his views on the Oscar Pistorius case and things like excessive force and 4 bullets through a bar, through a toilet door. All of that will, of course, be tested in court when the court case gets underway on Monday, and we'll keep you informed on this very channel as to how that develops. Live crossings to the venue, and of course evidence from within the court also. But let's take a look at what you're talking about on social media. What are you saying? What a weekend of sport. Super 15 plus Oz versus S cricket. Go SA teams. That from Jacques Landman. Jonathan Levine says, okay, who organised cricket in Cape Town this weekend? You may not be aware of it, but cricket brings lots of rain. Go for it, Proteas. I don't think it's that time of the year when it rains in Cape Town, Jonathan. Stephen J. Lee says, Proteas and especially staying in AB to give Warner an earful and bodyline bowling in this test. Problem is he's so short, Yorkers hit his head. Yeah, of course, it's the time to chirp. But that's what we do in South Africa as well as our Australian friends. As the Australian High Commissioner said earlier, it's a friendly rivalry, but a rivalry nonetheless. After the break, well, we look at South Africa's top women's cycling team. This is Newsroom on SABC News.
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Sports Live, the show that brings you the latest local and international news, live interviews with the who's who in sport. He's the first South African to wear a yellow jersey that was at the Tour de France this year.
It's the first time that we get a boxer who's recognized by the Ring magazine as the best fighter in the planet to visit our country.
And he's very close to world record pace. And in fact, it is a new world record.
When you cross the line, what went through one's mind?
None of the 4 of us knew who had won. The scoreboard is always on the left, but all of us tend to the right. No, we just waited for the country to go down. RSA.
That's Sports Live, daily at 8:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Africa is symbolized by these magnificent trees. The Sunland Big Baobab is carbon dated to be around 1,600 years old. When baobabs become 1,000 years old, they begin to hollow inside. In the Big Baobab, this has resulted in the world-famous Baobab Tree Bar.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back here with Newsroom here on SABC News. Let's take a quick look at the news headlines. Three arms deal critics say they will pursue all legal avenues to ensure that those who took bribes in the multi-billion rand arms contracts are brought to book. Former ANC MP Andrew Feinstein expressed dismay at challenges in accessing classified and top-secret documents. Feinstein and co-author Henny van Vuren called on the Commission this afternoon to repay taxpayers with the full, unfettered truth of the arms deal. President Jacob Zuma says amendments to 2 laws are going to lead to changes in the print media. Speaking at the Independent News and Media celebration in Cape Town, the President said the print media sector was lagging behind broadcasting with respect to transformation. He said amendments to the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Act and the Employment Equity Act should pave the way for transformation. And Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir will continue his battle for bail in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court today. His third bid for bail was postponed on Monday. Krejcir was arrested in November on kidnapping and attempted murder charges. 5 others have since been arrested. Now, this weekend, and for one night only, the Gautrain will operate until after midnight. Johannesburg partygoers will be afforded the opportunity to enjoy themselves until the early hours of the morning without having to worry about transport. In studio, we are joined by Gerent Chris Williams from Prime Media, the Gautrain's partners on the big night out. That's right, Gerent Chris Williams?
That's right, yes. From a Prime Media perspective, we were co-organisers of the M&M tour. And because it's at Ellis Park on Saturday night, we thought it would be fantastic if the Gautrain could run and get people safely and quickly to and from Ellis Park. So engage with Gautrain, Errol Braithwaite, who managed to pull it off. So it's going to be fantastic. Yeah, Errol was supposed to join you this morning. Right. He's obviously got a lot of work to do. A lot of running around. Running around. Just tell us about how many people you're expecting to sort of use the facility and what the response has been so far. So far, we're not sure. Errol took our original idea of just running the train for M&M and made it into a much bigger, much more relevant big night out for Gauteng, if you like. So we obviously have the Lions playing the Bulls. We have people being able to come from Hatfield all the way through and have dinner in Rosebank and go to Monte Casino and vice versa. So it really is a test. We're hoping that everybody gets behind us and supports it, because I think Errol's vision, and we'd like to support it, is to see this happen once a month or once a quarter. So it's like Joburg's big night out in a way. And are you going to be catering for some of the other events on the day? There's big rugby that's going to be had, I think, over the weekend. Will that be incorporated, and will people be able to sort of mix it as they go along? That's exactly right. So as I mentioned, we've got the Lions Bulls game going on. And there are always things happening at the Civic Theatre and at Monte Casino and in Rosebank. So very, very much. There's also Santana performing out at Soccer City. Yeah. So to an extent, the trains will be able to service that demand as well. Any specific hashtags, Twitter handles, that sort of thing that people can follow or interact with to make sure they know exactly where things are and how things will play out? Yeah, I think probably the best thing is to visit Gautrain's website and download the app, the Mobi app, and that has all of the information available on it, and also on the 94.7 Highveld Stereo website. Now, especially people here in Johannesburg have long called for the hours of the train to be extended and for the train to run a little bit later into the night. Do you think this is the sort of starting point for this to happen in the future going forward? I know that's Errol's vision, and we'd very much like to help him achieve that. I think obviously there are a lot of operational complexities and costs that come along with it. But it would be absolutely fantastic if we could do this once a month together with Gautrain and give people the opportunity to really get out there safely, to have a few drinks and not have to worry about how they're going to get home. And I'm sure it's going to be a big party night out for everybody. Are you guys going to put up pics and video clips and that sort of thing? And it's going to be a massive fun event, isn't it? Oh, it's going to be incredible. I mean, from just coming back to M&M at Ellis Park, we have 51,000 people coming. It's a sold-out show. So we will be tweeting and we'll be broadcasting and putting pictures up everywhere we can, for sure. Well, Garen, thank you for joining us this morning. I'm sure it'll be a fun night out, and everyone in Joburg will enjoy it quite a bit. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Of course, the Gautrain's big night out. Don't forget, you can use the train until well after midnight over the weekend. Now, golf. There's a big tournament going on here in the North England. Simon Dyson on 7 under par. He's the clubhouse leader on day one of the Tshwane Open at the Alps Club, Copperleaf and Centurion. Play was suspended yesterday due to the threat of lightning, with several players still busy with their first round.
Simon Dyson. The Copperleaf layout is the longest ever on the European Tour, with 2 holes measuring more than 600 meters. But Dyson made short work of it, scoring 7 birdies in his round without dropping a shot. South Africa's Jared Harvey also completed his round, and he's 1 shot behind the leader on 6 under par, after narrowly missing a birdie putt on the final hole. He's joined on 6 under in the clubhouse by compatriot Eric van Rooyen and England's Ross Fisher. Trevor Fisher has a chance to challenge Dyson for his lead. The South African was on 7 under par after 16 holes of his first round before play was suspended. His approach play was complemented by his putting, as he also carded 7 birdies without dropping a shot. The winners of the last 2 European events on South African soil, George Coetzee and Thomas Aiken, had mixed fortunes. Coetzee had 2 bogeys, but 4 birdies helped him to an opening round of 2 under par 70. Aiken still has to complete his round, but held a monster pot on the par 3 17th. He had 6 birdies so far, but 3 bogeys meant he was on 3 under par with 1 hole to play. Harry Olivier, SABC News.
Now finally, the 2014 Best Med Tour de Boland road stage event will run from the 4th until the 7th of March next week, and is certainly not a race for the faint-hearted. The route for the 2014 Tour de Boland will cover 432 kilometers in 4 days of challenging riding and include 4 mountain passes for a total vertical ascent of more than 4,500 meters. The Tour de Boland takes place in the week preceding the Cape Argus Pick and Pay Cycle Tour. Now, in studio, we are joined by South Africa's #1 ladies cycling team, Best Med, that is, and it's Unita Jonker, Shanae Jonker. Are you guys related?
No, I'm Jonita Venter.
Oh, it says Jonker on there. I'm obviously getting it. Unita Venter.
No problem.
Shanae Jonker, Michelle Benson, and of course the man in the very expensive suit is Alan Fritz from Best Med. Morning, nice to meet you as well.
Thanks,
just tell us quickly about the team and in your involvement in Tour de Boland and how you see things play out over the next week.
Yeah, the ladies team started for us on a note that said Best Med needs to contribute to the upliftment of women, whether it's a girl child or a lady or a woman. Lots of social challenges in South Africa, and our contribution is in the arena of sport and uplifting women, and this team has done tremendously well.
And that's sort of probably a platform for you to extend that kind of involvement in women's cycling, and are you going to take it a little bit wider?
Yeah, we generally have 8 races throughout the country in every province, and we encourage families. Best Med is really about wellness and well-being, and we encourage families to participate in these sport events. We have a massive marathon at the University of Pretoria, and we get about 16,000 runners, and the same with cycling. We want the masses to participate to increase the well-being of South Africans.
I want to start with you, Unita. Tell us about your expectations for next week, the race itself. It must be quite a nice development and a beautiful part of the world to be competing in, really.
No, we're actually very privileged to take part in such a prestigious tour with great sponsors on board. And we would like to see more women cycle and make women aware of cycling and get the youngsters in. We've got a young team with lots of potential, and we're going to do our best to create them to be the future stars.
Not all the women are as brave as you guys. I think a lot of women are scared to be on the roads in South Africa. Is it dangerous to be I'm a cyclist myself, so but I'm a mountain biker, so I know it's can be quite dangerous in the big cities. Is it dangerous to be on a bike sometimes in South Africa?
Yes, it is dangerous, especially in the highly populated areas, but we train where we have to. The Cradle is a great place to train. There's lanes, and I must say awareness has picked up since the Bury situation, and people are more aware of us on the roads.
Michelle, are you finding more and more young women getting on bikes and taking part in the sport?
Yes, like certainly, because a year or two ago, if we came to races at SAs and so on, there would only be about 3 or 4 girls, and this year at African Champs and at SA Champs, there were more than 15 junior girls that entered.
Now, Alan, it's one of the fastest growing, or the fastest growing participation sport in South Africa. Now, everywhere you go, people got bikes hanging on cars, and there are big races almost every weekend for amateurs and so forth. Is that something that you guys are also looking at and targeting and maybe partnering with going forward?
Yes, certainly. It's I believe cycling has surpassed golf as the fastest growing sport. We are delighted in a country like Africa where many people can participate in cycling. And yes, our contribution in the 8 races we have is to increase those numbers in terms of young kids. We have a wonderful development team down in PE, cradle of South African sport. And yeah, cycling is just growing phenomenally, and we are just happy to be part of that.
You know why it's so popular? men, they like to show off their expensive bikes. Tell us about this expensive piece of machinery, Unita. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how expensive bicycles can really be. I mean, this bike here is a Pinarello Dogma. It's an Italian bike, right?
Yes. We're
And
very
it's
privileged.
complete carbon fiber.
Yes.
How much would it be sort of valued at, you reckon?
Around 80,000-90,000 rand complete bike.
18. That's what my car costs, man.
Yes. I had someone asking me the same question yesterday, and he couldn't believe when I told him it's about 90 grand.
90,000 South
Yes.
African rand. Oh, that is a steep price to pay. And what sort of advantages do you get? I mean, I ride a mountain bike, and I don't really think that carbon fiber is sort of the best thing on a mountain bike. You know, we don't ride plumbing in the end. But does it give you an advantage on the road?
It's all about power-weight ratio, and you need to have a light bike when you go up mountains. So this bike is extremely light and very responsive. So we are privileged to ride these bikes.
You also need a light body when you want to go up mountains, is that right? I mean, that's the big trouble I have, is dragging this thing over the big mountains. You know.
No chocolate cake.
No chocolate cake. So when last have you guys had chocolate cake then? Years or months?
This is a need-to-know basis.
No, but seriously, Michelle, tell us about what it takes, the kind of dedication and the diet and the kind of, you know, getting up at 4 a.m. to go on a long ride and that sort of thing. Tell us about that.
It is hard because, especially with me with school, you get up at 4 a.m. to get in an hour or two, and then you've got school, and then after school you try get in an hour or so again. And then you've got homework and everything. So it certainly takes dedication.
Dedication, we've got a lot of that in South Africa. A lot of people are quite committed on their bikes. Tour de Boland is, I think, one of the events that you guys are trying to build. It's a beautiful part of the world. What's been the response to the Tour de Boland?
Fantastic. Last year we had a very, very big field. We expect even a bigger field. There were a few international riders taking part. And we're looking at really building the capacity. Look, it's the best part of the world, really.
Yeah.
Riding through the mountains in the Boland area, it's just pristine. And we want to encourage riders to enter for the race and be part of that fantastic race.
I've tried riding over those big mountains. I've done it, but I didn't see much of the scenery while I was doing so. I don't know how these guys could. You were in total agony when you do it. But finally, tell us about your team and the sort of hopes and dreams you guys have for the future of this team.
Yes, as I said, we have a very young team, and they will be the future stars. We've got strong riders, and under the leadership of Owen Botha and Tyron Beaker, you're gonna see us on TV a lot.
How old are you, Michelle?
I just turned 18.
You just turned 18. You're still in school, and you are?
I'm 20.
You're 20. Oh gosh, guys, you look a lot more mature than that, actually. But thanks for joining us today. It's absolutely fantastic to have you guys, and all the best with the tour next week. And Mr. Alan Fritz from BestMed, you guys are doing a fantastic job to support women's cycling in South Africa and the sport in general. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm over here. Okay. Thank you, Eugene, for letting me know at the very last minute, as you do. But let's take a quick look at what you are talking about on social media before we say goodbye. Of course, Radovan Krejcir wants bail. That's Gareth Bale. That's not bail application. He will have to pay £76 million. I don't know where you get that number, Matthew Schoenenberg. IG says, I feel like they should be televising the Krejcir case too. Yeah, now that would certainly get the viewers as well, I would think. But unfortunately, it's a little bit more dirty than I think what we would like. Tato says, Ish, this Krejcir, where does he come from? I hate this name. No bail for him. Don't always hate. They say, don't hate the player, hate the game, my dear. Tato Ramohocha says she has real issues with Radovan Krejcir. The BestMed ladies team are still here with a very expensive bike. Nearly 100,000 South African rand for that thing. What do you think about that? At SABC Newsroom is where you can tell us what you think, whether that is just unbelievable, isn't it? The show broadcast live from our studios here in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, between 9 and 10 a.m. every weekday morning. Highlights are repeated at 2 in the afternoon with a total rebroadcast of the show the next morning at 5 a.m. that is. We also stream live on YouTube between 9 and 10 a.m. every morning with the entire show available for the whole day on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel, SABC Digital News. You can watch it anywhere in the world at any time. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We love it in the morning.